I'm not going to put that in. Hey friends, it's TJ. Welcome back to another episode of Tea with TJ. And today we're having some Mystic Mint tea. And I have a very special guest for you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Chetan. And that's
I love it. And give us a little bit of background about yourself.
I live here in New York City. I'm an actor, drag queen, singer, dancer, kind of gamut of all kinds of performing.
Love it.
Been here almost 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did a little stint in LA.
Nice.
Came back because New York or nowhere.
Yeah, same.
She's my girl.
Yeah,
she's
same.
my girl.
So one, thank you for doing this.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be
I'm
here.
so excited to have you on the show. So we met, just for a little bit of background for the folks watching and listening. We met while you were doing a show, a immersive theater production, to say the least. And you were sitting next to me, and for, I would say, like the first 20 minutes, I did not know that you were a part of the show.
Oh my God, good.
Yeah. So you were doing your job.
Okay, great. Because I wasn't sure. Because, we were interacting and then like asking about like the guy that I was waiting for. And so I was like, okay, do they know? Do they not know? But this is good. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to
I
know.
mean, it was really, really good. So with all of that, we met after the show was over. And I had a chance to like get to know you a little bit and introduce myself. And I asked you to come on the show. So I'm so excited to
Me
have
too,
you.
my first podcast.
Yeah. So when I gave you the topic discussions, you chose owning your individuality, which is so amazing. And I love it because no one ever chooses that topic. Yeah. So I'm curious to know what like jumped out to you with that topic.
I think that stood out to me because that's kind of been my journey recently. I'd say the last couple of years, like starting 2021, kind of like coming out of the pandemic. I just moved back to New York from LA early 2020, like 2-3 weeks before the lockdown started. So coming out of that, being away from the city with family for 7-8 months, then coming to the city and everything was different. I really had to like sit with myself. And, I'm 37 now, but 33, 34 then. And it was a big shift of like, who am I? And how do I want to be in this world? And like for me, my drag and my real life was very separate. I made a very conscious effort to keep like the feminine away from the masculine type of thing, just based on like the industry. And, until recently, like drag queens weren't as the thing that they are now because of Drag Race. Like my agent said, you should really not do drag, all that kind of stuff. So I really kept everything separate. But things started to kind of shift. And that was my like last 3 years of like really coming into my own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. So with that kind of being the catalyst for that mindset shift, what has been like the biggest lesson you've learned in being able to like own your individuality in that way?
People are more accepting than you think.
Okay.
Which is surprising.
Yeah.
Like I was really worried about, kind of mixing the masculine and feminine in my daily life. Like I always was very into fashion, but really kind of like pushing my fashion choices, like sometimes wearing a little black leather mini skirt with like a tank top and like boots, or kind of exploring that mixing of quote unquote feminine fashion with my daily life. I thought it was going to be a lot more like hit with kind of negativity, and it wasn't. And that kind of like made me come out of my shell even more in my like everyday life.
Gotcha. So would you say that you were prior to that like more reserved and kind of just like closed off a little bit, or?
Yeah, I was presenting for other people, trying to be a masculine gay man because I thought that's what everyone else would want and what like dating would want, and kind of shied away from all that. And then I was like, well, what am I doing? Why am I not being my authentic self? And then I did, and it was things just started opening. Like a lot of stuff, like just started happening.
Yeah.
And it's been like the best 2-3 years of my life, I have to say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've, and you have listened to the show as well. And like, I've had conversations with guests, and even prior to having guests on the show. And I talk a lot about individuality and creativity and self-development and self-improvement. And I agree. It's like you have this almost kind of like switch that happens. Like once you get past a certain age, for me, it was 29 going into 30, where I finally felt, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I don't have to like put on for the world. Like, I can be myself. I can be all different versions of myself. I don't have to stick to what the perception of me is.
Yeah. Are you into astrology at all?
A little bit. My best friend is more into
because like 29-30 is Saturn returning, right? So like it usually does happen around 30.
Yeah.
Mine was a little later, but yeah.
So with this idea of like coming into your own and really starting to, I'm going to name it as like loving yourself even more.
Yeah.
What has been kind of the like routine or ritual or baseline for you of like getting back to yourself and like not swaying, being in this new space?
Oh my God, interesting. This is gonna sound weird, but it's the outside, right? Like starting from the outside sometimes helps me connect with the inner. So with me, what it was fashion and like my image that I could control on the outside. Then stuff started happening on the inside. So like, I really don't falter back to that kind of like energy that much anymore, because I think it's been 2-3 years in this. Like, okay, in the beginning, maybe a little bit because I wasn't getting the attention that I was before from men in that way. Although like the other attention was great. Like people would stop me on the street for my clothes and like say like, you know, my fashion sense had shifted drastically. So in the beginning, maybe a little bit, like especially if we're going out, maybe I'd throw on a t-shirt and a pair of jeans and not wear my crop top and, you know, and a high-waisted pant with like a boot, you know. But now it's like I'm pretty in it. Like, I think I found my groove.
Okay. And do you feel like you do you ever feel as if you have to compromise that version of yourself at all, whether it be like family, friends, associates, in work environments, or any of that kind of stuff?
So, you know what? Not really anymore, but I did in the past. Like, I remember years ago, especially when I had just been a year to maybe 3 years here. I was still in college, and skinny jeans, right? Skinny jeans, like the painted on. And I would go home, and I grew up in Indiana, and my dad would ask me like, maybe don't wear the skinny jeans like at home. But you know, that was back then. Now it's not so really. I work in hair like during the day, so you know, they don't really care.
Yeah.
You can wear really whatever you want. My friends have been pretty good. They actually like love my fashion.
Love it.
So I have to say it's been pretty okay.
Good.
Like,
that's amazing.
I know it's been positive. I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like really, there was a big energy shift. And
do you find, speaking of friends, like, do you find that you have surrounded yourself with like-minded people being in this new space for yourself?
These are my friends of like 10, 12 years, and if not more. And I've never really felt judgment from them.
Okay.
It's totally outside of their zone. Like they don't even like flirt with these kind of things.
Okay.
Like I have, however, like gotten some of my friends to like up their fashion a little bit. Like,
of course.
So that's maybe the rub off a little bit from on my part, but they're very supportive, like loving and honest, and like if I was doing anything wrong or like faltering or whatever, I think they would say something, but they see that I'm in my groove and in my path, and I think like that's all that really matters, that I'm happy.
Good. Yeah. I agree. There's definitely, I feel like, again, when you get to the other side of 30, I feel like for myself, that is when I really figured out who my real friends were, and the people who, because I have 4 friends that I've been friends with since 2003 that are like still in my life
Yeah.
today.
Oh, good. That's
And all of them are very like unique and different and have different perspectives of me and based off of our individual connections. But the thing that I love about all of them is that they all recognize, even though there are many parts of me, they all recognize like the core version of me, which I feel like, and I'm sure you can attest to this, of like being an actor, it's like, you know, you go out into the world and
Yeah.
there's a certain version of you that exists in certain spaces. But even in this idea of like owning your individuality, you can kind of like cover a little bit of self in those spaces.
Yeah.
And it's I don't think it's intentional. I think it's
Protective.
yeah, it's protective. It's
Yeah.
like you don't want to put all of yourself out there all the time because you need to be able to keep a piece of yourself to self. And so I love that about my friends, that each of them knows exactly like the
Your
core
heart.
version,
Yeah.
the heart of me.
Yeah.
So I love that like your friends are.
Yeah. I
you
have
know,
a good like mixed kind of group. Like I have my college friends that are like like literally my family now. Like my best friend from college, his kids are like my nieces and nephews. Like
wow.
I'm like in their family Christmas card. Like that's how like close we have gotten. We met freshman year.
Yeah.
And then I have like a couple of my high school theater friends that I still am friends with. And then I have like my New York City, like outside of college friends. So there's like a good mix. And I think everyone really knows who I am now at this point.
Do you feel like you ever are splitting yourself? Like, do you feel like what I'm getting at is like emotionally, as emotional beings, and now saying out loud that you are a Cancer, I know that you can probably be very emotional sometimes. Do you ever feel like you're missing something, or you're off your path, or wanting more out of life, or like, you know, like this internal struggle that I know that I have as a Gemini, that like I'm always like, oh, I could be doing this better, or you know,
All the time.
yeah,
All the time. I don't know if that's a Cancer thing or if it's an actor thing or like a creative thing.
True.
Right? Like I constantly am thinking like, am I doing enough? Am I doing my best? Am I putting out enough to get what I want? And then I have to like step back and be like, well, how much can you output without taking time to like input back onto yourself, right? And I luckily have this amazing friend in LA who I kind of like soundboard. She's like my spiritual kind of really good friend I met when I was working out there. And she does a lot of stuff online and we talk a lot, and she'll kind of like bring me back. And sometimes I'll be like, Tammy, I feel like there's chaos in my life, like following me everywhere. And then she's like, well, why do you think that? Why is chaos finding you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think maybe it's you? And I'm like mind blown, like stuff like that, where then I have to think about it. And then, so I've learned some things to like kind of try to quiet that part. Cause I get that a lot, like from different projects that I've worked on. And I've just, you know, I'm into like astrology and psychics and tarot cards, and a lot of it is get out of my own way. So I do become very heady in a lot of my creative processes or other things. And one of the biggest things is, and I know this for myself, is like I do need to step out of my own way. And that's been kind of like the biggest learning thing, is how to do that.
Yeah, I get that. As a creative, what has been like the biggest aha moment for you when it came to getting both your creative life and personal life in line together, like in alignment together?
That's hard, because probably like the last year, I think coming out of college and just being so almost like desperate, like you are desperate when you're 22 and you graduate conservatory or like, you know, whatever, as a performing major, and you want to do anything and everything. And at that time I was like working on an EP that I was about to release, and I thought I was going to go more in the music direction. So then I stopped auditioning, and I kind of fell into like this weird cycle of just like doing anything and everything I could on top of working like a day job. And I think the last year, maybe a year or two, is finding the balance where coming back to the creative and having control over it. So like that's what like kind of drag gave me, where I was getting just like tired of auditioning and getting further along, maybe booking a job, but then something happening and it falling through, or like getting cut from the movie or whatever. And then just the grueling audition process, like rejection.
Yeah.
And drag kind of gave me the opportunity to creatively control my work and be able to work the way I wanted to.
I love that.
So it really had changed my life. Like I started doing my own brunches, my own shows, and I'm like, this is more fulfilling to me than auditioning every day.
Yeah.
And then through drag is how I got the show that I'm in now. I do play a drag queen in that show. And then that's now opened so many other things. Like, so it all kind of worked out.
I love that. Speaking of drag, because we've not really talked about it just yet, what has been your favorite like moment in drag or performance or like creative endeavor?
I think it's like living out my Bollywood childhood fantasy.
Okay.
Like when I started doing drag, like, oh my God, 12 years ago, I was doing a lot of like menswear, and I always did platinum blonde hair, and I did like blazers and pants, and I wasn't really kind of going in the Indian direction because like at that time I didn't tell my parents either, and Indian clothes are expensive. Anyways, whatever. But recently, my mom has gotten really into it.
Oh wow.
And she has like her Indian clothes from when she was like 15 to now, so it's like 50 years in this closet at my parents' house. Jewelry, saris, her closet is bigger than my apartment. And I just like take clothes from her, and it's like I remember watching Bollywood movies and being like, I want to be that actress. I want to I want to do that dance number in that outfit, and now I get to do it.
I love that.
And that's been like the most kind of rewarding childhood nostalgia, living fantasy thing about the drag that I do now. I mean,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that you have like a full-on archive of clothing to just
archive.
pick from.
It's insane. It's insane.
Speaking of clothing, has there been like a specific piece of clothing, both in drag and from your personal wardrobe, that you feel like really encapsulates like who you are as a person?
A piece of clothing, like an outfit, or just like a single piece?
I mean, both. Let's do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drag wise, I think maybe a sari.
Okay.
Like one of my mom's saris, because like that's kind of been my world recently, and it's different enough. And it really is like who I am. Like as much as I wear like Western clothes, like I'm in now, like off the shoulder, but like if I put on a sari, like something happens, like something changes.
Just magic.
It's something takes over. Maybe it's the ancestors.
Yeah, I love that.
And some of the like I also like model and drag, and like my photographer friend of mine, we won a competition to be like in a sari or like a lenga. Yeah. So like something beautiful happens when Indian clothes is put on.
That's amazing. I love that.
Out of drag, my style out of drag is so all over the place that I don't know if I have one thing.
Okay.
There is this like one like outfit I recently got from LA. It almost looks a little Indian because it's like oversized, it's long and flowy, and it's like a teal color with orange tigers like printed. So it has a little bit of like the Asian kind of flair to it.
Nice.
And it almost looks like a kurta, which is like an Indian like male, like tunic, but like long, like past your knees.
Okay.
Maybe that.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that.
I live for a good tunic as a tall person, because most shirts are short for me.
See,
unfortunately.
as a short person,
the world is your oyster.
It really is. Really is. I don't have to worry about even in drag clothes.
Yeah. Well,
fit into women's quite easily.
If you, I mean, I don't know who is listening or watching, but as my first guest who does drag, if anyone was interested in pursuing it, what advice would you give them?
Oh, good question. Honestly, I started on Halloween.
Okay.
I think a lot of drag queens, maybe back in the day, like I don't know now, because like there was no Drag Race when I started. Instagram was like barely, so there wasn't so much like, we went to the bars, like, and we saw the drag queens at like Posh, or like I remember like one of the first girls I ever saw was Bianca Del Rio in the back at Posh, like doing insult comedy in the back. And it was like, I remember the one time she like insulted me. I was like, yes, it's happened. That's kind of where I got like my visual. And then I had a girlfriend in high school who's an amazing makeup artist. Her name's Kelly. She put me in drag for the first time. And then if I needed to, as I started getting a little more into it, she would help me and I would watch her doing makeup. I mean, now you have YouTube and, you know, Instagram, you can like, but I would say figure out what you think is your persona, and it can change. Like you can start in one persona, and as you grow as a drag artist, like mine's completely different than when I first started. But yeah, the key I think is to figure out what your aesthetic is and what you want to say as a performer. Like, are you going to be a comic queen? Are you going to be a lip syncer? Or are you going to be all of it? Like, what direction do you want to go in? And start from there, and then try to find a girl that you like and you're inspired by, and see if they'll take you on as a daughter.
Nice, I love it.
And start there, and then buy up all the wigs you can.
Has there so you just spoke about how your persona can change. How different would you say your drag persona now is compared to the first version?
I think it was a little chaotic then. My drag was a little chaotic. It's like feeling it out. Like I was doing it. I was working in nightlife, hosting parties. The outfits were a little ratchet. The wigs were a little ratty and dry.
It was a different
makeup
time.
Maybe not have been blended so well. But she had a good time. She was a baby drag. I think more so like now I'm like more of a grounded queen. Like when I first started, I was very all over the place, running around with no like direction. I just wanted to be in drag, and wherever drag took me, I'd go. I think now it's more like I'm doing it and there's a path. I know why I'm doing it, and I'm doing it for a specific reason. Instead of just doing it.
With purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like there's life is so much better when you have purpose. Like you
truly.
You know, I feel like we've gone through, and I'm sure you've had moments in your life like where you've just wandered aimlessly and hope that something stuck and tried to figure it out as you go.
Well, as a POC queer person that's a performer, I think a lot of us in that category have spent years in that. Where am I? What am I doing? Wandering. Where is the light at the end of the tunnel? Kind of thing. It's there. And it sometimes takes some people longer. Like, I mean, I'm 37, and it's just the light is just starting to show. You know,
also, I will say that you don't look like you're 37.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My mom is an esthetician, so I like had skincare, like take care of your skin my entire life. Like, and wear your SPF, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a bald person, yes.
SPF is your best friend.
So, I mean, I feel like you're just dropping gems, and I have to keep up. What would you like? Would you say that drag was the like light at the end of the tunnel for you, or like did something else kind of align first and then push you out there?
Like I mean, it started different. It started at a completely different space than it ended up being. Like I started doing it because I was like, this is fun. I like to wear girls' clothes and wear heels, put on makeup, host parties because I was in my 20s. And then in LA, when I stopped because I had some of my management and agents had told me to stop doing drag if I wanted to be taken seriously as an actor. So
interesting.
I stopped, and I did it very rarely. And what I noticed is I was getting parts more when I was in drag. So then I had to take a step back, and I'm like, well, I really shouldn't listen to my agent and manager, and I should just follow my heart. And where are the results coming? And then really kind of like, okay, this is where I fit in this world, is in drag. And once I accepted that, then like more things started to happen.
That's interesting, because I'm on board with you of like, it's great to have representation, right? Because sometimes they can get you into rooms that you can't necessarily get yourself into. However, I feel like a lot of agencies and managers are looking at their roster as, I'm trying not to be disrespectful,
I was like, go for it, girl.
a lot of people look at their roster as just what they physically can see, and not necessarily the human. And that has been and Ashley, who is in the show with you, we talk about this all the time, where like there are parts that exist that we are right for that they will, for whatever reason, not submit us for. And so a lot of times, for me specifically, I submit myself for things that I'm like, I know exactly who this person is, who this character is, like I'm right for this part. And most of those instances are the jobs that I've booked.
Yeah, because you know yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it is true. Like, it is great to have representation because, like you said, a lot of times you can't get into spaces that you want without them. But they have like what, 30, 40 people that they're dealing with on top of, you know, yourself. And how well can they, if you get a good agent, they know you pretty well. But, you know, when you're first starting out, like there's so many people that they take care of. So if they don't know you, if you're not one of the first or whatever, then they just are going to look at what you look like and not know kind of like what other avenues to put you through.
Has there, with your manager, was there like a turning point after that drag conversation of like them not wanting you to submit like or do drag anymore?
It happened to be happening as I was moving from New York to LA. And because he didn't have an office in LA, the relationship was already going to end.
Gotcha.
So it kind of was like a goodbye.
Okay.
No drama really, because he had said that. And then literally like a couple months later, I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to move to LA. So it kind of like that. I didn't have to like battle him about it. And it kind of all just like fizzled kind of nicely. And then I did have an agent in LA that was pretty like, and I was one of the first people that he signed because he started his own agency, and he was great. Like I talked to him about drag, and like he kind of knew me a little bit more personally, and that was a pretty good relationship. And unfortunately, like he didn't have a New York office, so when I moved back here, I couldn't stay with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sucks. I wish more people could be bi-coastal because there's like I've been trying to break into the voiceover space, but so much of that work exists in LA, and it's very like small parts here in New York City. Even with being remote, it's like they still want you physically there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very weird, but
because like especially voiceover, you're like, why do you need to be? You can do it anywhere.
Yeah,
like you have a setup right here.
Yeah,
like why do you need to go into the studio?
It's very weird. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Oh my God, this has
been
so
amazing.
Fun. Yes.
I would love to have you back if you're
anytime,
down for it.
Anytime.
Love it.
I love this.
So 3 questions.
Yeah.
First one, where do you find the most love?
Oh. Oh my God. You know, I want to say myself.
That's fair.
If that's like, I don't want to sound so cliche, but I've worked pretty hard on myself the last couple of years, and I have to say, like, I don't have a partner. I'm single, so it's been a lot of myself. And then I luckily have these amazing nieces and nephews that I see at least a couple of times a month, and they are so much joy. And I just like look at them, and I'm just so in love. And like, if I need like a little recharge, I go up there, and then like they scream and run and give you a hug, and like they're so excited to see you, and that just like kind of reminds you that you are loved in all spaces that if you know that you're good in. And so it's, that's where
love it. What inspires you the most?
What inspires me the most, I think, this kind of weird need to want to shift the perspective on queer Indian entertainers. You know, like there's so many Indian people in this world, and there's like even less representation of us, especially here. And that kind of fuels me. That kind of inspires me. It's like, I want to F up the fucking baseline on this. Like, why aren't we everywhere? Like, why aren't we in fashion? Why aren't we like you know, like more of this, like more queer Indian drag, more queer Indian spaces and like performances and all that. Like, so that in the back of my mind is like, I'm trying to create those things.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we need way more representation in this world. And like, this world is so much more diverse than we like to pretend that it isn't. And then final question. Where would you be if you were not in New York City?
So I tried LA for 5 years and I, you know, I went because like, where else would you go as a performer? And plus like sunshine and gorgeous weather. But something in me, like if I wasn't here, London, I've never been, but I don't know why.
London.
For like years, like London, could London be a good spot? Like, I don't know, something is very enticing about London.
It's magical. I love
like,
it.
I'm dying to go to London.
Oh, do it.
I know it's so close.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go.
Have you never been?
I've never been. I just have this weird calling to London.
But you should definitely like it is.
I hear. I'm like, people say if you love New York, like you'll love London.
Yeah, and it's so much better
and cleaner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's clear.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
This was fun.
This has been so much fun.
I would love to have you back
whenever.
Thanks so much for listening, friends. That is our show, and I will see you next week.